Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Critters, where we go live here from the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, as long as my travel schedule allows. And my travel schedule is getting kind of busy. I will be out of town at least once a month, on the road doing different events. So anyways, let's see, the time has changed. So hopefully that doesn't affect everybody attending Coffee with the Critters this morning. So for those that are maybe new, my name is Laura Joseph, owner of the Animal Behavior. I just got notification that we just went live. Good morning, Steve. Good morning to all the critters. For those that may not know, my name is Laura Joseph, owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We're an international educational center where we teach people all over the world about how to use applied behavior analysis with animals, whether you're living with them, working with them, or have any type of lifestyle with them. We teach everybody all over the world about working with animals using applied behavior analysis and positive reinforcement, and we do that through our live streaming services. So I'm just going to say good morning to everybody. Hey, Jennifer, Beth, Poppy, Ju, Lee, Daphne, Sandy, Maureen, Julie, Charlene. So yeah, and there's Deb. Yay, Sarah. Good morning. So this morning, before we get started, I've got guest Katie Sislo. She's a level 1 member. Let's see. We try to revolve through topics, and one of the things we've created since this summer is called Behavior Spotlight, where I take either somebody that's a member, level 1, level 2, corporate member of the Pig Project, Parrot Project, and bring them on for a live stream discussion. I picked Katie this morning because Katie's been a level 1 member. I'm going to say coming up on a year here pretty soon. Is that right, Katie? I can see her in the lobby. Okay, something close. So anyways, Katie is a dog trainer, and she's also from Wisconsin. So she is very active in level 1. So those of you that are on here that are level 1 members, you're going to get to meet her here in a couple of seconds. But before we get started, just a couple of things. Today is a very busy live streaming day. Right after this, at 11 a.m., we have our monthly Q&A in the Parrot Project. Something else that's happening in the Parrot Project, where we're going to get this started in level 2 as well. So for those of you who are on here that are level 2 members, we're going to start getting more involved in enrichment ideas. But this is something we do every Friday morning in the Parrot Project, where get those animals foraging for their food. If you didn't watch the live stream sometime last month called Get Rid of the Food Dish, there's an important reason. Work is not a 4-letter word. If our animals aren't staying mentally and physically busy, active, and learning, or sleeping, it often brings way of behavior issues. This is why it's huge for us in the Parrot Project to have Foraging Friday, where we share ideas with each other. And that is also where I share my tips on how I increase complexities and shape different parrots foraging for their food. So at 11 a.m. this morning, we have our monthly Q&A in the Parrot Project. And then this evening at 5 p.m. in level 2, we have our group live stream book review discussion. And tonight we're going to get into the topic of several different things, but we're ending a chapter of one of our books where we're going to be talking about the no reward marker, which obviously when we know better, we do better. So then what are we doing on level 1? Oh, level 1, we just started a group activity. I think it was yesterday. We're talking about negative reinforcement, but we're also just starting a group activity where everybody's uploading videos, and we're going to get this is going to start to be a regular basis where I'm going to pick a topic and let's start training. Because if you can be as book smart as you want as far as behavior and applied behavior analysis, but if you are not applying it That's what we do here every single day. We are applying it. We're moving animals. We're shifting animals. We're doing husbandry, grooming. We train tricks, which is a luxury for us because I usually don't have time to train the tricks because we're doing so many grooming and husbandry and vet prep behavior. Vet prep, that's something we're doing in the pig project right now too. A couple more quick slides. Just want to bring it to your attention. Our live streaming webinars, the recordings are already always there on the Animal Behavior Center's website. The past recordings are there, but we also do live stream recordings, so it gives people the opportunity to engage and ask questions during the live stream. We've got our next webinar is coming up in, I think, 2 weeks. In 3 weeks, we're having another one in the Parrot Project. So our webinars are free, depending on which level of membership and or which project you're in. So this one, obviously, Flight is free for members of the Parrot Project. The last one, the Pig Enrichment, free for members of the Pig Project. All live stream webinars are free to level 2 members. And the beginning of the month, next month, this is one of our most popular, Understanding Behavior. Okay, so you can find out more about that on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page. If you guys have any questions, you can always email me, Laura, at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com, where I do answer each and every one of my emails. Okay, so without further ado, let me get Katie Sislo on here. Ready, Katie? Here she comes. There she is.
Good morning.
Yes, Katie. The technology is so cool because you're in Wisconsin, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is neat because now, I mean, everybody gets to see my face all the time on the live streams, but I don't get to see who's on the other side of the computer. So this is pretty cool. So thanks for joining me this morning, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Katie's in the middle of a move.
Yeah.
Right before the live stream started, we just talked about don't move the camera because you're going to on the desk, the ladder on the left. So especially with you getting ready to move, Katie, I know you're pretty busy. So thanks for coming on here with me this morning.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So you're a level 1 member.
Yes.
And
yes, I actually became a level 1 member because I won your you had given away your 5-year anniversary. You had given away your a level 1 membership. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to have the privilege to be chosen to have that membership. So it's been an exciting adventure, and I've learned so much already.
Oh, and I just recognized, Katie, that I spelled your name wrong in this. It's Sislo, not Sisla. My
Correct.
Apologies.
That's okay.
So yeah, you're right. You won that our 5-year anniversary, which is our 6 years coming up February 21st. Mm-hmm. So we gave away a level 1 membership, and we had everybody. I can't even remember what the contest was, but it was tell us why you watch Coffee with the Coffee with the Critters, something like that. What are you getting from our live streams? And I remember you in particular. So we went through everybody's answers, and one from you, tell me if I'm not correct, was the area of where you are, you don't have a lot of access to this kind of information, more positive reinforcement training. And did you say there was a lot of aversive training around you and you didn't have that access?
I actually grew up, I'm kind of what you would call a crossover trainer. Most of what I had growing up was more of like your compulsion-based, correction-based training. So I got into more of the positive reinforcement realm when I said there's got to be a better way. Like, I started off with, pinch collars and my dogs just weren't enjoying it. And I wanted to see that drive. I wanted to see, I show in performance events with AKC and things with my dogs. And I like to see that engagement. And I just, when I was forcing them to do things, I didn't have that engagement. They were like, okay, what are we doing? And why are we doing this? And what do I have to do to not be in trouble? And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I kind of slowly, gradually am moving over, or was moving over into it. And I started doing a lot of YouTube videos, and there's probably a few mentors out there that don't even know that they're my mentors, because I spent so much time reading books and just learning about it. And I'm like, this is the way to do it. And so, where I struggled with it was I didn't have that outlet of, okay, well, this isn't working. What am I doing wrong? And so, of course, then you always go to what you know. And that's what I knew. And I'm like, this isn't right. Like, I need to find an outlet that helps me to, when I run into a problem, that can help me establish, what am I doing wrong? Or what is a better way to do this?
So with that's interesting. With you saying, what am I doing wrong? Why did you ask yourself, what are you doing wrong? Because of what you saw with your dogs?
So I would have situations, and looking back, I can kind of tell you what I was doing wrong. But for an example, I was teaching a dumbbell retrieve, where you throw a dumbbell, the dog waits until you ask him to send, or until you send. They go back, they pick it up, and they bring it directly back to you. And so I either didn't have a dog that was consistent on it, or I was taught adversive methods to teach them to retrieve. And so when I kind of started into the more positive realm, I started doing some clicker training. That was kind of my first step in, as I started doing shaping and clicker training. And of course, that's a kind of a big feat to take on when you have no idea what you're actually doing. And so I was watching behavior with it. And I threw the dumbbell, and my dog looked at me and went, I don't know what you want from me. What do I do with this? And so my first instinct was to be like, go get that dumbbell and take him out there and like make him do it. And I'm like, that's not right. That's not right.
Yeah, more of a command. Do it.
Right, right. And so what I realized as I, spent more time working with it, is that I was pushing him too fast, and he didn't understand what I wanted. So once I backed it up and didn't throw the dumbbell as far, went back to kind of the basics, and taught him that, here, when I tell you this, it means pick it up and look at how exciting this is. And I had such consistent dumbbells, and I moved right from doing, picking up the dumbbell and bringing it right back to doing, so there's scent articles as well, which is a very high upper level. It's called the utility events, I want to say, but where they actually have to choose a dumbbell. And so I was able to very quickly shape going out and retrieving one dumbbell to going out and finding the dumbbell that smells like me and bringing it back. And so in a matter of a year, I had my dog consistently retrieving a dumbbell that smelled like me. And he was doing it happily, and there was no correction to it. And, he knew what he was supposed to be doing, and he was excited to do it. And I love seeing that engagement. And that's what was most important to me.
And that's probably why, I don't know, is that why you do what you do with your dogs, for the engagement?
Yes, I love spending time with my dogs. I'm also kind of a behavior junkie, which I've realized as I've gotten into this, is I love learning the behavior. And then you can actually see the process. With the dog, you see them going from, I have no idea what you want, to, oh, this is so much fun, let's do it again, I don't want to stop. And that to me is very rewarding. And I guess that's my positive reinforcement with working with them, is moving into seeing that change.
And that kind of backs up, how the studies show what I'm always saying. Studies show that an animal's preferred form of enrichment is positive reinforcement training. A lot of times people ask me, can you show the study? Sure, I will, as soon as I start diving into it, because I've got a presentation I'm getting ready to do on abnormal repetitive behaviors. It is in here. But the thing is when people ask me to cite that study, I'm just like, let me turn on my camera, and just start working with the animals, from birds, dogs, pigs, fish, whatever. It shows in the behavior. These animals I like to give them all the opportunity to get away from me. But because if they move away from me, that tells me I need to sharpen up my skills here.
Yes. And what am I doing wrong? Not what are they doing wrong? What am I doing wrong?
Which also comes up to the point, like I'm paying attention to the comments too, comes up to the point, if you're working with positive reinforcement training, the word command does not exist and the word correction does not exist. If there's any correction, it's on my end as
Yes.
as or whatever I'm asking. Because if that animal can see, hear, smell, or feel you, you are training it whether you realize it or not. It is just what are you training it to do?
Mhm.
So yeah, good. I'm gonna throw up some comments here. Um, but that's good that you saw that through Coffee with the Critters. And
Yes, yes, that was my first introduction to you. I came across you on Facebook by accident. I think it had popped up, hey, Laura Joseph is live. And I'm like, who's Laura Joseph? And so I pulled it up and I watched you for probably a good year before I was even in the project. So that was, and I loved it. I was every Sunday I was there. And if I wasn't, I was watching the replays because there was so much information to learn from that, even if it was just like the simple foundations of, oh yeah, well, duh, I can't believe I missed that.
yeah,
Or I would go and I would take home with that and go work with something to try to do whatever it was that we were focusing on that week to see if I could get the same results that you did.
good, good. Well, and then level one, we're doing a lot of activities, which when you said the other day when I was like, who's ready to do an activity? You're like, me. And I was like, all right,
Yeah,
me.
I imagine that. And I was actually looking for like one of those gifts for you where like somebody is like raising their hand and like falling out of their chair, me. But I couldn't find one. So
Yeah. But the activity has started, but we have several different activities. And one is, understanding negative reinforcement, why that it is important. Because you can see how easy people get confused with negative reinforcement. Um, and so where I tell people to start, hey, Maria, good to see you. Hey, Kitty. Hey, Adrian. So I tell people where to start. And this is what I say in level one all the time. When I was going to say first start learning. I've always been learning since the day I was born. But when I was first starting to pay attention to, okay, what is this positive reinforcement stuff? When I went back to school and started taking master's classes in applied behavior analysis, I would just start thinking every morning, why did I just get up? Why am I doing this? I don't even like to do this. Why am I doing this? Understanding reinforcement, and that's pretty much where to begin.
well, and that's why actually moving forward as I got more involved with this is I got involved in rescue. Kind of the other side of the performance venue. I was always in I show in confirmation, I show in performance. And I was like, I want to see the other side of this because there's so many animals that aren't able to find homes because they have behavior problems. And so it was very important to me. And I looked at it for a learning experience for me because I've always had herding and sporting dogs, so hunting dogs and herding dogs. And I'd never experienced the hounds or the terriers or those different types of breeds. I like the comment there. Um,
Sorry, not
that's
it.
a good one. But and so I got involved in rescue, and I actually ended up bringing into my home a lot of the dogs that were not able to be placed because of their problems, and actually work on their behaviors at home. I eventually ended up moving out of rescue because I had moved and it kind of took it home too. Found dogs that were needing some extra support and we're bringing them in and call them kind of my rehabbers. Bring them in, work on their behavior problems, and then find them good homes. And so it's done so much for my skills as far as being able to see those little behaviors. And, I had dogs that were coming in that had bite histories at 9 months old and that are now living in homes. And credit to their owners as well, because they kept up with the behavior training and helping them be confident. But they're great members of society. They're doing walks with them and, parades and group things. And the dogs he does great. So,
And animals that misbehave, whatever that is, behavior issues, behavior concerns that are likely to have them lose their home. You hear me say a lot that attention is the misuse of attention is the number one issue why animals lose their home. And that's why when we know better, we do better, because we're often the one misusing the attention. and reinforcing undesired behaviors unknowingly with attention, the animal loses its home. The people try to do the right thing, or whatever the right thing means. They
Hmm.
try to help by adopting. They bring in an animal with a behavior issue. They don't have the tools to change this or to work with this. And this is something I was just listening to yesterday in an audiobook, um, which we'll bring up in the book review tonight. But it's just like, we take on these clients that these people just want an animal in their home, but yet lack the education to change. This is the whirlwind, the vortex of something that needs to change. How do we do that? How do we provide that information? These people just want to live with animals in their home. They don't want to be trainers.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, and I think the biggest point with that is that even if you don't want to be trainers, like you always say, if you're in the room with the animal or they can see, hear, or smell you, you're training them. And that's where I think it becomes a problem is that, if the dog is doing something, a behavior that you don't want, if they're barking at somebody or they're lunging at somebody, I'm just using one of my that I actually worked with, um, somehow you're rewarding that somehow, that it's reinforcing that, or there's a confidence problem involved, that instead of correcting the behavior, you need to get to the bottom of it and figure out why they're behaving that way. Telling them to knock it off isn't solving that emotional problem that they're having with what behavior is.
Yeah, and Daphne brings up a good point here. Families have unrealistic expectations of what a dog is or what a normal dog behavior. I come into that a lot. People call me. Our local humane society directs people to us. Even our unlocal humane society directs people to us, and that's, Katie, why I do the live stream memberships in the projects, is because you may not have this in your area. I don't even need to see you. You know what I mean? I don't even, you don't have to be here. But that is one of the things that I offer. Well, what I used to do is, when people would adopt dogs, when people used to come here to the center, I no longer do that because I can just do it online. When the first class was, just come in here and sit down. Don't bring your dog. Nobody brings your dog. Just come in here and sit down. And what I used to do was that, this webinar, understanding behavior. Where do you begin? And what I started doing was just like, every undesired behavior serves a purpose for the animal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Because if you don't know what it is, you're getting ready to probably reinforce it.
Well, and remembering to start thinking about what am I doing to reinforce the behavior instead of why is this dog barking or why is this bird screaming or why is it doing it? It needs to stop. But what is it? How is it being reinforced? Something is happening that's encouraging that to continue. And somehow you have to identify it. So even if you're not a trainer, it may not even be training anything. It may just be, oh geez, every time I walk in the door, I drop this bag down and it startles the bird, so the bird starts yelling. Something as simple as not setting your bag in that spot could stop your behavior completely. And training involved. It's just a matter of being aware of how your behavior is affecting their behavior.
Sure, sure. Setting the environment up for success. Like you said, it could just be, don't set the bag down, or don't set it down right there. Um, yeah, and something else, like I'm paying attention to the comments as well, is once people say, okay, yeah, now that I know what I'm doing that's reinforcing the undesired behavior, now what? I've identified it. Now what? You
Yeah.
know? So I find that just making it, just giving them the basics of understanding behavior. That's why I tell people to understand reinforcement. Ask yourself every action you do throughout the day, why am I doing this? Because when you find out what that why is, now you've identified the reinforcer. If I can help get that through to you, you can start paying attention to your dogs, your birds, what have you. An example I give here is our deaf dog Levi. Quincy, the Rottweiler, has all of her senses. Um, the deaf Levi goes to the front door and barks. I see that behavior maintaining or increasing, so that means something is reinforcing it. What is reinforcing it? All I had to do was sit back for 3 seconds and watch. He would run, he's deaf. He runs to the front door and barks. What happens next? You know what happens next? Quincy comes running up next to him. You know what I mean? And so then I identified it's Quincy's attention that's reinforcing the barking. So what do I need to get control of? It's Quincy. Okay, so every time Levi barked, he can't hear me. I'd say, Quincy, come. Every time Quincy came to me, I'd give her a treat. And then I saw the barking go because I eliminated the reinforcer.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, Daphne says, what do you want them to do? If you want them to stop a certain behavior, what behavior do you want them to do instead? Then you need to reinforce that. We're getting a couple different questions for you, Katie. People, tell us about the animals in your home.
In my home.
Yeah.
So I currently have 3 dogs. My husband has a Boston Terrier. She will be 2 in January. I have an Australian Shepherd who is my show dog. He just turned 2. I got him about a year ago. So he was a little bit older. We're kind of working through just general.
Is that the one you're showing in level 2 or 1?
Is that the one I did what with in level 1?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm trying to pay attention to the comments and pay attention to what you're saying too. In level 1, you're doing a lot of fabulous work with one of your dogs.
Toby is my rehabber. That's probably the one that you're talking about. I did just post a video. I do with Griffin, my Australian Shepherd, it's been more just basic behaving on the table, for grooming and how to behave in the house. And, I posted photos of laying on the rugs in the new on beds and in the new house because we had it down in the old house. And apparently the new house is a completely different environment for them. And they're, kind of running mad, trying to learn what the expectations are. And I'm having to teach them that. Toby, though, is a little Australian Shepherd rehabber that I have gotten, that I've run into lots of things with. He's one of the rescues that I had brought in that had behavior problems. He was very much so not socializing, not socialized as a puppy, I don't feel. And I find that, a lot of people, when you're dealing with this, are like, he was abused. There's always that possibility that he may have been, but I like to look at the foundation of the dog. And I feel like he is more of a lack of socialization. Just was never experienced any of it. So everything to him is scary. That's outside of his norm. Even people that are doing their own thing outside, going for car rides, things that you kind of take for granted when you have a dog, like the dog goes places with me, or they're part of your family. And the person that had got him from the struggle is that he was struggling with men and bearded men especially. And the male was a bearded man, and she had 2 sons. And so as the sons were getting older, they would move in the house and he would bark at them and he would be afraid of them. And so, bringing him in and just building some confidence with him and then, just trying to let him be part of the family and teach him that it's okay to be part of the family. And now I'm kind of starting to get into more of the nitty gritties of, trying to turn some behaviors so that he can be a good pet to somebody someday. Okay. I've had him for about 1.5 years now. So
I didn't know he was a foster.
Yes.
Okay. That's even cooler. You're doing all this pretty intense work with him.
Yes.
And by intense, I mean just very detailed, really breaking it down and moving at his pace.
Yes. Well, he's been here now. I got him, it'll be 2 years in March that he's been here with us. So, I kind of, my daughter also has some processing issues. And so they are two peas in a pod. They are like best buds. He gets out of his crate, and the first thing he does is go find her. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
he will kind of see where things go.
Like Toby
We've
has
talked.
potential of being a foster failure. Okay, where do you?
No, there is the possibility. I think it'll depend on where we can get him and how comfortable he can be in our house. One thing that I really struggle with him is our busyness. We're an active family. We have a lot going on. Everything here is really loud and crazy and very full of commotion. And he does wonderfully in calm. To just live in a house where people have a structure and a routine. And yes, dogs need change, but for a dog like him, a lot of change causes him tons of anxiety. And so, just having little changes, I think would benefit him greatly versus, well, okay, we're going to be home 2 hours later, or, and he's going to be home that much longer, because he's actually on medication for anxiety as well, which has done wonders for him. But little things, just little changes in his environment sets it off. And then you're dealing with this spiral of behaviors because of this one little thing that set him off. So I think that's going to be key, is how far I can push him with him still being comfortable and confident, and whether or not he will actually be a successful member of our family, or if I'm just setting him up to be, I guess, a stress case the rest of his life, and that he'll be uncomfortable. I want him to be successful no matter where he goes. So if
Yeah.
that's here and he's happiest here, then I guess that's where he'll stay.
Does he have separation anxiety?
He has anxiety issues. I haven't really pinpointed whether it's a separation thing. He happily goes into his kennel. He'll happily stay in his kennel. I'm trying to figure out the keys of the reason of why he wants out. And I don't think it's a separation thing.
Okay.
But I think that spirals. So, oh my gosh, I need to get out because I have to go potty. But now I've got all of these things on my mind because I have to go potty, and it's building up my anxiety. And so when he comes out of his kennel, though, the first thing he does is he goes and finds my daughter. And then he goes and he finds a bone and he chews on it for 5-10 minutes just to kind of release that energy.
Sure.
And then he goes and he's a totally normal dog. So I'm still working on the pinpointing. And I found that since we moved, it's increased that anxiety as far as being in his crate. So I'm not sure at this point if it's moving to, because it's unfamiliar, that he's feeling more confident around people, or if it is a separation anxiety situation. So I'm still trying to figure out what we're dealing with.
And with you saying you've had him for 2 years and you're still trying to figure this out, one of the things I always tell people, because some people may be watching this going, holy cow, she has all this experience. The dog's been with her for 2 years and she hasn't figured this out. How am I supposed to be able to do it? And one thing I want to tell people, and I just remind people, and this is not to make you feel good, to make you feel bad. It's a fact. Behavior isn't easy.
No, it's not. But I think the other thing too, going off of that, is that Toby could go to a house and be successful where he's at with a specific person that has a specific lifestyle. What I'm doing with Toby is I'm trying to push him at his own comfort level to be able to be more, to be able to for quality of life. Like, my goal is I want him to be able to take car rides. I want him to be able to, accept other people, at least in his vicinity. He doesn't have to accept them touching him or petting him because he's our dog. He needs to be comfortable in our home, but he also needs to understand that things are going to go on around him and they don't have to affect him. And that's my goal with him, is to get him so that he can be confident in his own skin and feel comfortable no matter what type of situation that he's in.
Yeah, and maybe, thinking, but with you saying this, I'm thinking about a particular animal. I don't even want to say what species it is. But just giving them choice, giving them the option to retreat and go away, move to an area where they feel comfortable. They don't have to be out here. They don't, just because a lot of people think, well, this is what the animal needs to be doing. Just give them an opportunity to escape. And I use that with the Peregrine Falcon.
That's a huge thing for Toby too. When we had people come over, that's the end of the world for him. So we started off with him being crated because that's where he felt safe, but I would leave the door open. And I would and I would send him to his crate when someone would knock on the door and he'd bark like crazy. And he would just sit and he hyper focuses on them and barks and barks and barks and barks.
And
And
then
so once he would get
behavior gets increases.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so then I thought, and he would quiet sooner. So we worked through it, lots of treats, lots of counter conditioning to work him through it, but he still wasn't comfortable with it. He would deal with it and he'd bark because somebody came to the door and you could see he was still very stiff and very wide-eyed and very, tight, all of him was tight. And so I'm like, well, let's do something different because unfortunately the way my house was set up was he was right in the doorway, kind of right in the entryway. And so I quit letting him go into, I shouldn't say I quit letting him, but I started pushing him back to the back of the house, because if he was loose, I would leave him loose when people would come over and he would run towards them and he would keep his distance and he would just sit and bark and push himself forward a little and then pull himself back. And so my goal with that was to teach him that he didn't need to be there and he didn't need to bark at them. He could go away to where he felt comfortable. And he's still in the learning process of that because we don't have a ton of people that visit. And now we're in a new house situation, which has kind of stirred up everybody's anxiety of people. But overall, he quiets faster and he approaches sooner because he has as much distance as he needs to be able to feel confident. And of course, I'm still throwing food at him. And initially when we started this, he wouldn't even take food because he was so fearful. And now instead of it never happening until he goes and hides and barks, he or constantly barks the whole time they're there. It takes him 5-10 minutes to settle down, and I keep throwing food and they just keep ignoring him and suddenly he wants to be petted by them.
Yeah.
So, it's coming slowly. And those are things that I think are really important to me for him, because I think for him to go to another home and just be able to be part of a family, everybody has visitors. And, even if it's not very often, there's always somebody coming over or, there's always a trip to the vet or there's always things that a dog has to deal with. And I would rather him have to deal with it and be comfortable with it versus just having to cope with it because it's part of life. And so that's why it's taken me as long as it has with him, because I want to set him up for success. If he was to leave here, I want him to be confident in what he knows.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of questions. I know Cody answered one or asked one that I want to address, but what's your give them? Beth just said this as well. Give them a safety zone. Give them. Kitty just mentioned something as well. Kitty Sharkey with her pig, Kevin. She's always given him a space that he knows you will not just be disturbed. This is your spot. And when you give that animal that kind of space, watch how many times they go to it. You know what I mean? That's a cue to you.
Yes.
If they're going to it quite a bit, maybe there's something better we can do to rearrange the environment so it's not so stressful. In something you had mentioned as well, that I just wanted to, you said the more you let Toby retreat, the more you give him the space to retreat, the more he comes out.
I had to teach him to retreat, though. He didn't know how that he had the option to retreat. And so that was a key point for him, was to teach him that you don't have to be on top of these people. You don't have to be here, because somewhere he had learned that I need to stand here and bark because I'm afraid of them. And so, according to his previous owner, the vet had talked about putting him down because of the risk of him being a fear biter. And fear biter has to do with being restrained. And so something that was very important to me was to teach him that he has space and that he can move away. He doesn't have to be in their area if he's not comfortable with that. And so he learned that he can move away. And usually he only moved a couple feet back. And that was enough for him to be like, oh, well, this isn't so bad. And then, of course, somebody would move and we'd start over. But his recovery time is faster. And so we're progressing, but it's taking a period of time to get him to the point where he's confident with his own abilities and his own choices to be able to move away or to be successful in whatever we're working with.
Yeah. And let's see, how do I say this? Be careful who you're getting behavior advice from, because that can, going to somebody who knows, has the tools to change the behavior, sets you and the animal up for success, sets everybody up for success. You mentioned fear biter, being put down because of a fear biter. If you think outside the species, do you know the majority of the companion parrot population would be put down?
Yes.
There is fear. Okay. And just think about it. Uh, Clipping of wings to control behavior. That doesn't control behavior. I mean, it does affect how the animal, what it does is gives them less of an opportunity to escape. We're dealing with prey animal here. If that animal is biting, there is a reason. In majority in the companion parrot, and I would say pig, not no, parrot for sure, fear biting. Pigs, it's there as well. A lot of not understanding. Um, and something I wanted to expand on what you just said, Katie, is you said, because I think you said it based on setting up a routine for Toby. Because there's something I say, there's an article I wrote called Predictability Has Its Place. With a lot of wild animals that are injured, that are brought in, that need to be now ambassadors for their species. Talk about fear. There's a lot of, now all of a sudden these people are all around me and I'm in a cage. I can't get out of here. I'm not used to this. One of my approaches is be very predictable. And the more predictable you can be, the more the animal has better sense of control over their environment and understands consequences that are beneficial to them.
I agree. And I think the key that I found with Toby is finding that routine that works for him too. You know, trying to set him up for success with that routine. And that's actually what I've talked about with you, Laura, in level one a lot is behavior that's happening. Why is this happening? Like how do I set him up within our own routine to be able to be successful? You know, we talked a lot about barking and, you know, the anxiety of being in his crate and trying to pinpoint what it is that's making him anxious, and trying to, my goal is trying to try to get to him before the behavior starts. But there isn't a routine. Without having the routine and having him understand that routine, it's hard to get to him before that behavior starts.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're struggling right now, is trying to figure out when is the behavior happening and why is the behavior happening and how do I get there before it starts? And once it starts, what do I do about it to make it stop, or to help him so that it stops, so that I can fix it, I guess.
Right. And I know we started talking about that in level one. And I was actually thinking about this. I think it was yesterday on my drive back home from seeing my father. I was thinking about that, and I was just like, I wonder if she could do this. So remind me, and I want to share some ideas with you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's why we're here, right? You know, and I just want to say, I appreciate you so much, Katie,
Thank
because
you.
you are so active. And this is why I don't give a lot of things away for free. And one is because people tend to not have as much value in it when it is free. You have taken advantage of every single opportunity you can in level one. And that's when I see your dedication. So
Thank you.
there's admiration for me to you and what you're doing.
I appreciate that. That means a lot, Laura.
Yeah, you're welcome. Um, okay, so many people are saying things. I want to get back to something I want to address with Beth Steptoe and Caleb in the Parrot Project. She's doing phenomenal with Caleb. And that was a series of her showing pictures, videos, me watching, and Caleb is a mutilator in the Parrot Project, and Beth, you have made so many strides with that bird.
Yay.
And she was talking about his room is his safety zone when he's uncomfortable.
Awesome.
You take a prey animal, you stick them in a cage, you don't pay attention to fear, you're going to get serious side effects. And one of the most devastating to watch is self-mutilation. Not uncommon in the companion parrot world. So Cody, I want to get back to Cody says, all right, how will you handle the transition from foster to a new home with Toby? How do you encourage a new owner to continue the training you and the animal have worked on to achieve this far?
So the big thing for me is to find that perfect place. I think that's key. Working in with rescue in the past, I think um, without I'm trying not to sound opinionated to the fact that I don't know that all rescues are placed in the appropriate homes for their behavior, because they're not looking at behavior. People are coming in, and this isn't all rescues, but people come in and they're like, I want that one. And it may not be the best home for them. And one of the rescues that I actually brought in that became he had a bite history at 9 months old, was what actually ended up happening in that situation. Is she wanted a dog that would love her and be her companion. And it was a terrier that was very high energy and needed a lot of confidence building and maintenance to be what she wanted. She just wanted that snuggly dog that she could cuddle with, and he was and so she didn't know how to manage that or how to deal with that. And she had the best intentions in the world. And when I took him, she just sobbed like it was her baby, and it just didn't work out. That home was not right for her. So one thing that I find really important is to make sure that whatever home they're going to is best for the animal, and making sure that they are set up for success and going, and when I rescue, I am their trainer for life. I still have people from the animals that I had in the past that'll contact me and be like, this is the behavior I'm dealing with, what's happening and what do I do about it? And I will be like, either tell me more or get me video, or this is what I would recommend. And I'm in contact with them for life, and if something were to happen, I will take them back in a heartbeat. They are my family. Once they're in my family, they're my family forever. So, and I think that's key in helping those people understand that if they're going to adopt my pet, that they're stuck with me too. And that's usually hopefully a good thing for them, in the sense that they feel like they have a place to go if they do have questions. A lot of times with the animals that I've placed, I have them come to me where that animal is comfortable for a period of time, multiple visits, and starting to kind of disconnect myself from them a little bit more as well. And doing it slowly, because we talk about routines and shaping those different behaviors, and they usually become very reliant on me just because I've kind of been their comfort zone. I've helped them come out of their shell and help them become who they are, and I need to disconnect myself from that a little bit so that they can hold their own and be confident in that. Oh, well, Katie helped me make this choice. If I keep making this choice, no matter who I'm making this choice with, I can be successful, kind of generalizing those behaviors. And, then bringing them there and seeing how that relationship goes. And the terrier that I had, we did some visits. She did some babysitting of him when we went places, that he kind of got accustomed to it. And one day she was kind of on the fence, like, is this best for him? And I took him over one day, and she says, you can just leave him. And I said, okay. And he's done wonderful. So it was kind of this slow transition. I usually hear a lot more from the owners at first when they're like, why is this happening? Or what do I do about this? But once they kind of settle into the situation, I hear a little less and less. I do have my previous rescue. I do hear from them probably once every 3 to 6 months with something that's happening. And what do I do about it? And they're always very appreciative of my response, or of whatever support I can offer them. I did take that particular dog. I took her there. I watched the interaction. I worked with them in the process. They had another dog. Kind of just helping that dog adjust, helping those people adjust to the new environment. And generally, if it's the perfect home for the dog, they're going to want to be successful too, and be willing to put at least a little bit of work in to start with to make it happen. So I hope I answered the question. You took it down. I'm not sure if I answered everything.
Yeah. I think it's really important. We're always talking about finding a reputable fill in the blank. All right. Um, there's really a lot of importance in finding a reputable rescue or shelter who's going to do that work, because you can keep sending out animals, but if it is not the right fit, what's your rate of return? You know what I mean? And I'm really
And what does that do for the owners that are having to return this beloved pet that they thought was going to be their family member for the rest of its life?
and what is
How
it
does
for
that
the
affect
animal?
them?
Yeah, I mean, we had a situation here where I was working with the local rescue. Well, I was working with the person that adopted, and I went over and finally saw the dog, and I was just like, "Holy cow! How long have you guys been living like this?" And the adopters were crying, saying, "We're trying to make it work," and I just left and contacted the rescue and said, "This dog is not ready to be in somebody's home." You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the adopters were left crushed, having to return the dog. Then they thought, we don't want to adopt. We're done.
Yeah.
And then sets this dog into a motion of in a home, out of a home, in a home, returned, in a home, returned. Talk about their anxiety, so
Yes. I had a hound that ended up having that exact situation happen.
yeah,
And it was hard. He got to the point where he had some pretty severe anxiety happening anytime he would be left. That his was true separation anxiety. We were to the point with him trying to just do different behavior modification because I had to go to work, and I had to do something with him. That's
that not the
that's
truth.
perfect, Deb. Yes. um, and I had to go to work. So it was like, what do I do with this dog? I can't confine him because he would rip my house apart. So it was like I ended up having to put him in a very large crate. I had a vet that I had fantastic relationship with as far as trying to medicate him to be able to just make him safe for himself as I worked him through these problems. And I think a lot of it came to, he had a lot of aversives used. I think it started when he started shuffling through the system. He was brought into the rescue as a puppy. He was a hound. He was a barker. Had a bark collar put on, and he just learned that he had no way to deal with this, and anxiety increased and increased until he started injuring himself to try to get away or get out or get with people. And so he had a rough time of it too. Most likely because of exactly what you're saying, because he was in the rescue and then he was placed and then he was brought back and then he was placed and then he was brought back, and then he was in between all of those. He was put in different fosters because he kept getting shuffled, and then he ended up with me, and then he ended up in another foster in another home, so he had more places that he had lived in the 2 years that he was alive than I can't even imagine what was going through his head.
Yeah, wow. You know, um, and unfortunately, that doesn't end well for the dog.
No.
You and just imagine all the other species that are out there that this is happening. Talking about that, okay, your dog lives 15 years, your parrot lives 80. Can you imagine how many homes are being shuffled? You know,
Yeah.
and one thing that is not recognized in the companion parrot community is separation anxiety.
I
Skylar.
hadn't even considered it until I was in the membership program. I've had birds. Um, I grew up actually with an umbrella cockatoo that will be coming and living with me eventually. Um, and I had never even considered it. It's just, and one thing that I actually posted even when I wrote up that thing that got me into the membership was I've trained dogs for as long as I can remember. I started training when I was training in 4-H when I was 8 years old. So dogs have been part of my whole life. But birds have also been a part of my whole life, but I never correlated the similarities between species. The behaviors are the same. The training is the same. It's just a matter how they present a little bit differently, obviously, because you have a bird versus, say, a dog or a pig or whatever it is. Those behaviors are still going to be there no matter what the animal. And that's not something I had ever considered before actually getting involved in the membership.
Yeah, yeah. I just wrote a recent article in Bird Talk magazine, and it should be coming out. It's on separation anxiety. Um, so, yeah, so much work to do, so we can do so much more. You know what I mean? The world is a very small place. Yeah. So, um, there are so many comments that we didn't even get to, but can you believe the hour's already up, Katie?
It went fast.
That was fun. This
It was very fun.
it's nice to meet you. You're in Wisconsin. If I'm ever in the area, which is highly likely, I'm going to
Yes,
meet you. I commend
that
you
would be great.
on all the work, the great work you were doing.
Thank you.
So if people want to get in touch with you, do you want me to share an email?
That's fine.
Okay. You can reach Katie Sislo at wbponytails@yahoo.com. What does WB stand for?
I've actually had that email since I was in high school.
Okay.
Two of my horses' names were Whisper and Buster, and just Ponytails was taken, so I added the WB in front of it.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so if you guys want to contact Katie, you know how to now. And if for just to finish up real quick, Katie, if you want to hang 10 with me or two.
Yeah.
Just a couple of the things we do here. My travel schedule is getting pretty hectic, but something else I do as well is I do live stream. You guys can find, I do live stream presentations to groups and organizations around the world. You can find out more about that on our website, Separation Anxiety. I post that here if you want to sign up for our email newsletter list. If you are on your laptop, look to the left, you can sign up there. We have a lot of pretty detailed content that goes out every 2 weeks. If you're interested in our projects and memberships, what we offer here at the animalbehaviorcenter.com. Level 1 is for companion animal caretakers. Level 2, I'll see you guys at 5 o'clock tonight for our group live stream group discussion. Level 2 is more for people who want to take behavior and working with animals to the next level. We have a wide variety of people in there. And then if you're interested in species specific, we have the Parrot Project and the Pig Project. And you can find all of that information on our website, which is the animalbehaviorcenter.com. And let's see, am I done? Yes, I am. Thank you. Okay. So, Katie, thanks so much for being on here today.
Thank you. And thank you all for visiting with me for the last hour.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were very interested in a lot you had to say.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. I will see you guys next weekend. Katie, if you just want to hang on with me for a minute.
Sure.
Okay.
Bye.
We'll see you guys next Sunday on Coffee with the Critters.